Hey guys, Parfax here, and today I'm bringing you what I think is the best PvP build in New World. All right, let's get started. All right, we are talking about one of my absolute favorite builds. This is kind of a callback to the old bow style builds with definitely a little bit of tweaks and a lot better gear that is super cheap and easy to get. This build is so much fun. It does as much damage as something like a fire staff, but does basically the best single target in the game. So this build is absolutely cracked out, has a little bit of everything and a lot of things. So let's go ahead and get into it because it's not quite what you think. So we're going to go over to the bow. Of course, you can see that we're playing bow rapier. Now, before we get into the bow side, you can play whatever you want on rapier. I shouldn't say not on whatever you want on rapier, but you can play whatever you want as a secondary weapon. I do believe that rapier is by far the best because it gives you so much escapability and gives you a lot of kill pressure, which you will see in the PvP clips at the end. And then, of course, we have Spear. Spear's okay. Spear hasn't been in a great place for a little bit. There's just other weapons that outshine it. Greatsword is obviously a decent option. Hatchet definitely did get a little bit of a nerf last patch, and it hasn't been as good of an option because it was really going up there as the best secondary weapon in the game. After the nerf, it's not quite there. So I really lean on Rapier. You can also run Sword and Shield, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. I do plan to make the build. I actually have literally everything for this build that I need for the Sword and Shield variety. So we will definitely be doing that, but let's go into the bow. So if you can see here, our tree definitely looks a little bit different. This is definitely more of an older style build, but this build absolutely slaps. So let's look at the left side of the tree. We're going the skirmisher side. We're going evasive tactics, closing in. We're going dodge and weave, archer speed, and of course, the extra damage for Mark. Now, as you can see here, we're going an ability that I have been very, very, very down on for a while, which is poison shot. We're taking one extra passive with infected arrows. And if you want to, you can take this direct hit. You are going to lose probably something like arrow range, which we'll talk about why I like that here very shortly. But let's talk about poison shot. Poison shot is an ability that is basically known as stat padding. This is essentially all this ability has been and still kind of is to some extent. But what this build is really thriving on is we're going to be doing a lot of light attack cancels with abilities. This is going to give us a lot of that. Poison shot also does give us the extra 10% damage on Mark, and it's a great way to just get, it's almost just like hit this on your target, get 10% extra damage. Now you can do something like that with explosive arrow, but you really want all your damage loaded into explosive arrow because that is your biggest burst damage is on explosive arrow. So I really have been falling in love with poison shot because in complete honesty, your light attacks plus penetrating pen shot and explosive arrow is very good. The thing about rapid shot is it basically just gives you an extra auto. It does allow you to go like auto because it is 100% weapon damage, which is your light attack. But when you get to the third arrow, it does do 125% weapon damage. Now, we did get a nice reduction in our heavy attacks plus our ability damage. So what we're doing here is we're really going the AoE route. We're going with a very easy play style, but very, very good. Can rapid shot provide a little bit extra single target than if you're using something like poison shot? Of course it can. It provides a little bit extra, just a little bit extra single target, but poison shot does provide a lot of utility, and you're going to see in the PvP clips that we are not lacking in single target. We have a ton of single target damage. This just gives us a little bit extra oomph on our penetrating shot, on our explosive arrow. So very, very good, and I absolutely kind of fallen back in love with this build. So right side of the tree, we're missing two very big passives, which we'll talk about, but right now, of course, we're running all the points down into penetrating shot, all the points down to explosive arrow, because explosive arrow is our big hitter. That is the ability you need to land the most. And we have long range finishing shot. We'll go to arrow range last. Surprise attack. bullseye, and of course concussion. When it comes to arrow range, this is a passive you can drop if you want to get the poison shot direct hit. This would basically provide you that extra 1-2 punch that rapid shot gives. Now, the cooldown is longer on poison shots, so you're not going to get quite the uptime. And honestly, rapid shots, best thing you can do with rapid shot is doing like a fully charged heavy into the first arrow, and that's kind of it. Rapid shot's okay after the first arrow, but it really provides that extra burst damage on that first shot. And the fact that it's 12-second cooldown is still pretty good. So that's really good, but I still, with using both, I'm definitely liking poison shot a little bit more. But the reason why we like arrow range is because we almost have to play inside this arrow range now. It increases the distance your arrow travels before being affected by gravity by 100%. And we do play outside that range as well, but that gives us, with the damage drop off to bow now, kind of gives us that range where we don't really have a whole lot of damage drop off while we're playing inside that range, which is really cool. You can definitely get rid of this passive if you want to put on the direct hit passive, but I really suggest playing around with both of them to see what you like. Poison shot, we're kind of aiming at people's feet anyway, so we do direct hit it, and you're going to see that in the PvP section, but we don't direct hit it as much, and we definitely do aim it at the ground a little bit more. So let's go to the rapier tree. Pretty standard. We're running flourish and finish, riposte, and flesh. Now you can run evade if you'd like to. I've came off evade, and I am becoming a flourish and finish enjoyer. It's just kind of, I don't know if it actually provides any extra like kill potential, because you can basically do everything that it does. You can do that on the bow, but it does provide some, you kind of style on people, and it kind of looks really cool when you get off a nice flourish and finish kill. So still pretty cool. It does give that first stagger, which is pretty cool. And then if you get the stagger and when into the finish, if you get the flourish, the finish is almost guaranteed to hit. So that is really good. So we're going, of course, the refreshing strikes engaged with all the points down here, other than fuel, because, well, we're not using Tondos. We don't care. Riposte all the way down. We're running flesh all the way down. Of course, we're running momentum. We're running desperation, controlled breathing. Was it perfection? Oh, perfectionist, red curtains, and swiftness. So just getting all the passives here. We're getting all the passives in our abilities on these two, and then a couple passives over here. So really good, really fun. So one of the things I absolutely love about this build is the gear is super, super cheap right now. So the only thing that is pretty expensive is the boat. We will start there, but there's actually a pretty cheap alternative, which I will show you at the end of this video. So let's go ahead and look at our gear. We will start with the bow, and this is what I consider to be absolutely best in slot, which is Vicious Attunement Keenly Empowered. Now, I've seen a lot of people go with Keenly Jagged. My problem with Keenly Jagged is it doesn't actually provide any extra kill potential. It does provide you some extra straight DPS, but it provides you absolutely no extra, basically, kill power, no extra burst damage. It provides such a tiny amount that I would almost rather any other damaging perk right there other than Keenly Jagged. But Keenly Jagged is still fine in some circumstances in a little bit longer fight. That is the reason why I believe that Keenly Empowered is very significantly better than Keenly Jagged. Keenly Jagged was amazing when we had Mortal Empowerment and everybody was getting to empowerment cap super easy, because it was a way to really give a nice increase in damage when we didn't need that empowerment, but we can't get to it nearly as easy anymore. So Keenly Empowered is absolutely amazing. And then of course, Vicious and Attunement. Now, like I said, I will show you a bow that is very good that you can use before you get this style of bow. When it comes to attunement, you can pretty much put whatever you want here. Honestly, nature attunement or fire attunement is what I would run. I know people are going to argue that fire attunement isn't very good because people are putting rubies in their gems right now, which is correct. But if people stop putting rubies in their gems, it will 100% be best in slot, because it gives you the ability to scale half of your damage or 40% of your damage on fire and really get that extra bonus. We are going an opal with an electrified gem in here. Doesn't really matter the element here. I probably wouldn't do fire because we are not scaling elemental damage. So it's really good. Opal, insane. The extra, rune glass on here, very important because it does provide you then only with some ultimate regen, which we have absolutely insane amounts, which we'll talk about that here when we get to the room, or when we get to the heart rune gem. And it doesn't really matter what element you put in here. So next, we were just running Final Respite. This build can run almost any rapier. I do like Sundering Riposte on here, and what you can do is probably best in slot would be something like Sundering Riposte, probably Vicious or Rogue, and Attunement is probably what you're looking at as being the highest DPS you can have. Keen is still very good. Vicious is definitely still good. That's why we're just running with this weapon. This build is super cheap to make. Other than the weapon, like I said, which we can have a very cheap alternative that you can run, this build is super cheap right now to run. And Final Respite is very, very good. Next, let's go to, we'll go to the Heart Rune Gem. So we are running Cannon Blast. We are running the single target Cannon Rune. We're running Penetrating Blast, Burning Blast. It is the Cunning Heart Rune. So this one's really good. It provides you that extra single target damage. You're going to see some really cool, Heart Rune Gem kills here. We do get some cannon kills. Part of the reason why I love Poison Shot so much is it does charge this very fast. So we have the Electrified Gem, we have the Explosive Arrow Dot, and we have the Poison Arrow Dot, which provide a ton of just dot pressure, which charges up your Heart Rune Gem faster. So we get this up very quickly, and we can absolutely nuke people down. You'll see some, I think my biggest hit in the PvP section is like 5,500 or something like that with this gem. Pretty insanely high burst damage. I actually have a really long range sick kill that you'll see in the PvP section, but love this Heart Rune Gem. You can go something like the AoE one if you want a little bit more just AoE damage, if you're really focusing on that, but that should really be left to like the Fire Staff users. You're really looking at getting a mix of AoE, and it really synergizes with your playstyle because it's basically like a penetrating shot, which when we discuss how to play this build, it's going to be played a lot different than a lot of people normally play bow. So we really like that direct angle shot. When it comes to the gear, we're actually running the Honest Thief's hat. When it comes to hats, this is pretty insane. It doesn't have Resilient, and if I could, craft one of these, which I will eventually, we would go with Explosive Arrow, Elemental Version or Physical Version, and Resilient. That is what's going to be your best here. But this helmet is absolutely insane. We are running 4 pieces of Resilient, and this is why this build is so cheap, because this is such a great helm for your build. Next, in the next 4 pieces, you can just run the Spring Bloom event gear. We're running the Legendary Chest, we're running gloves, we're running legs, and then these boots I bought a long time ago, which are basically exactly the same as the patterns. We will craft, I probably even have a bunch of the patterns in my inventory. Yeah, you can see here we have bought a ton of the patterns, and we will go ahead and craft a pair of legs, but they're already 625 with a rune glass in it, and they were before I decided to put, this set together. So I decided not to actually change it. Refreshing is a little bit better refreshing evasion, but the bow does take very good advantage of refreshing evasion, so refreshing evasion is still pretty good. But again, just buy the patterns and craft this gear. Craft it all decks, except for I would craft your chest piece at con. Now the reason why we do this, and you don't necessarily have to, because Dex does like to have very little con, so you don't have to here, but it's just a way to kind of save a little bit of money on other builds. You put a piece of con here, that way I know I have a sighted gem in here, so, but if I want to try out another build, I can go ahead and slot in a, slot this piece of gear into another build to have that set of gear, which is the reason why we have con. But we have, as you can see here, plenty of patterns, and I mean, I have still a ton of, tokens left, so we're gonna get a bunch, but really easy gear to get. Now, when it comes to how we're gemming our gear, we'll get to the jewelry here in a second. We want a lot of thrust resistance. We have 25.6. We do have 17.5 fire resistance, and then we just kind of filled out with 2.5% of the other. In this build, the only things that really should kill you are ranged attacks. You can get away from pretty much every melee in the game with rapier and bow, especially with this setup. So if you are dying to great swords or great axes, then you're just being out of place. So keep that in mind. That's why we really don't care a whole lot about the other stuff. Let's go to probably the most expensive piece of gear if the weapon isn't. It's this amulet. It is a stamina recovery, health, thrust protection. Unfortunately, this is the best in slot, and it can be a little bit pricey, but you don't actually need stamina recovery. Stamina recovery is something everybody, I want to say, loves to crutch on, because I definitely use it myself, but it is something you can play without. So you can run something like a health, thrust protection, and then you can even do a fire protection, but I think thrust protection is a little bit better. And then go something like a refreshing. I have a fire amulet. That's exactly what it is. So you can run something like that as well, but you definitely want health, a thrust protection, and then insert whatever other ability you want there. Refreshing evasion, stamina recovery are probably the three best you can get there. Next, we are running a very expensive ring that I crafted myself, which is thrust damage, invigorated punishment, refreshing evasion. But you can get a ring like this, which is dexterity, invigorated punishment, and thrust damage for like 1,300 coins. It's extremely cheap. It's a bare bones ring. And honestly, it is like 95% as good as the one that I'm running. I just happened to craft it, and then I decided just to put it on instead of trying to sell it because I was making this build anyway. So you just want thrust protection, invigorated punishment, dexterity, or you can even run con, and you're good to go. Next, we have an earring that I bought for absolutely nothing. I think I bought this earring for like 3K. It is dexterity, refreshing toast, refreshing, healthy toast. We love healthy toast in this build. We want all the extra, we want all the extra life we can get. You can run another ability here, but refreshing toast is absolutely insane in this build because we just want to run, stuff that gives us more health. You can run something like regenerating, but it gives us very, very tiny amounts of health. Refreshing or healthy toast is going to be absolutely insane for this build. This earring was absolutely dirt cheap and is absolutely amazing, especially for OPR. In war, it's a little bit more difficult because you probably are going to run something like a cleanse potion here instead. And in that case, you probably want something like purifying toast or even, insert any other ability there. But for OPR specifically, healthy toast is amazing for this build. These are super cheap. You can put in buy orders for a handful of different health potions, and they're basically 1 penny. So they are just absolutely amazing. When it comes to attribute points, we're just going to run 100 con, and then we are running the rest into dexterity. The reason why you want to have a lot of dex is so that you can run stuff like, where is it at? You can run stuff like rabbit stew, so make sure you have the ability to run it. Now, the one thing that's great about this build is you can actually run it a lot of different ways. You can run 50 con, which I wouldn't suggest going anything under 50 con. We do get the Constitution 100% bonus here, which is very nice, but definitely not needed. Or if you want to feel like you're getting killed too much, you can go all the way up to 150 con. So it's kind of up to your playstyle. I've been settling on 100 con. It gives me a little bit extra health. It makes my mana potions heal me for a little bit more. And of course, I wouldn't go below 50 con because I definitely want the consumables 20% stronger, because that is how you survive, and that is how you heal in this build, is by using your potions. So put whatever con you want in there, and then just put the rest of the points into dexterity. Some people, might try to say that you want to run, maybe 50 points in intelligence. I don't think so. You definitely just want to put it all into dexterity. It does make your rapier hit a little bit harder, and it does allow your critical damages to hit a little bit harder, but it's a lot of damage we are giving up for the bow, just base, and it's not something we're really worth doing. So let's talk a little bit about the playstyle. So normally a lot of bows, they like to get up on top of the ramparts and like to shoot down. But with this build, that's not actually what you want to do. It's very much an OG build. So your big thing here is you just want to make sure you are on ground level with whoever you're attacking, and you want to shoot at you want to shoot basically directly into them, because you want to be able to pen shot and get multiple hits with pen shot. That way we can get poison shot, we can get it down, and then we can just give a explosive arrow. It does help you a little bit for picking out single targets once you get up, and you will see that I do get up, but you want to spend a lot of your time on the ground in basically line of sight of whatever targets. So you can go there and you can just hit multiple targets, and you'll find that a lot of people will go into chokes. Where this build absolutely succeeds over almost every other build in the game is when people are coming through chokes, like if somebody's coming through this choke right here, and especially if they get stopped up a little bit, you can just put down your poison shot, you can pen shot through them, you can put down your explosive arrow, all in that little area where everybody has to come through. We have a lot of refreshing on this build because the gear is so cheap right now. We get our cooldowns up pretty quickly. We don't get them up as quickly as something like the Fire Staff, but we still have a lot of pop with this build, and we get our cooldowns up fast enough that really makes it, you know, super, like just incredibly amazing for these small choke fights. But where this build succeeds over something like the Fire Staff is when people are just running around, or if you're trying to go against healers, you have a lot of 1-2 punch with this build because you can just animation cancel every ability and you just put a ton of single target damage down. Now, when you're playing this build, you want to focus on light attack weaving your abilities. That is the whole premise of this build. You actually get more damage by just light attacking your enemy versus heavy attacking. Now, heavy attacking definitely provides more explosion and more burst damage, which you will find that sometimes I will do as well. But you really want to light attack, light attack, light attack. Light attack has the old hitbox, so it's definitely a little bit bigger, and it just provides a lot smoother gameplay. So you can see here, we can just go. You can just light attack weave in every ability, and it's just a ton of damage. Now, the one thing you want to keep in mind is we are running Empowering Explosive Arrow. The explosive arrow hits grant empowerment, increasing your damage by 19% for 10 seconds or until the next attack. What this means is if I hit an explosive arrow, the big thing I want to do is either hit a pen shot or a poison shot after, but we don't want to animation cancel it. Let's go ahead. We hit the explosive arrow and we hit our poison shot and we get those big ticks. If you noticed, we're actually getting the 250, and I will show you what it looks like here without hitting the explosive arrow, and it'll be lower. So if we hit something like a poison shot, when we hit it, whenever somebody gets hit by it, it'll increase the entirety of the damage of the poison shot. We can also do it with something like penetrating shot. But the key is you don't want to, animation cancel that ability at that time. So it was hitting for 250. Now it's hitting for 192. Now 168. So you can see here that you get a huge bonus from doing it, and it provides a lot of extra damage. So what I love to do is, hit my explosive arrow, and then I either like to do a cannon blast, a pen shot, or a poison shot right after. Sometimes if I have to, a basic attack, because all my abilities are on cooldown, I'll give them a big heavy. But you'll see a lot of my kill pressure will go. Look how just absolutely quick that is. You can even cancel part of the animation of explosive arrow into a cannon shot. You'll see in one of my clips that I do a light attack explosive arrow that hit at the exact same time, and then I hit them immediately with a cannon blast like a second after. So you just do, and then you do that. Now, if you do the light attack, of course, you're going to actually cancel out the damage of the penetrating shot. So if you're doing it on a single target, it's actually okay to do that extra attack because it still provides more damage than just hitting the penetrating shot. But I love to use poison shot or hit a pen shot through a large crowd of enemies. So it's very much a light attack playstyle versus the current bow meta where you do just you do a fully charged heavy into a pen shot or into an explosive arrow. That does provide definitely a little bit more burst damage, but this provides a lot more sustained damage. All right, so this is Parfax from the future. We have already started editing the video, but then I remember there was something that I wanted to actually put in the video that I didn't. So the one thing I want to let you guys know is it actually makes it easier to aim the bow if you zoom in. You will actually see in a few clips that I do this. Now, mind you, when you do this, you are going to have pretty much no spatial awareness. You can zoom in all the way like here, and you can hit your shots a lot easier. You see here, it almost seems like it has a, easier hitbox to hit from there versus right there. You can definitely tell the difference. So you want to play like this as much as possible, but if you are having a little bit of trouble aiming, you can zoom in like this, and it just makes it a lot easier to hit your shots. So just keep that in mind when you're playing. But if you do this, if someone comes behind you, you're going to get hit without actually seeing it. So just make sure you keep a lot of control and look at your health bar a lot. But all right, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed these PvP clips at the end. Like, comment, subscribe. Like always, let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this build. If you think I'm just dumb and stat padding, or, you know, how you've been enjoying New World. We'll have probably a tier list coming up tomorrow. We might have a fire staff build coming at the end of the week. I've been working on that for a little bit. And, you know, who knows what we'll have along the way. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.
You don't wanna see me mad, I'll be coming with that payback. You don't wanna taste that, don't wanna see me on attack. Trust me, you don't wanna face that adrenaline, I crave that. Yeah, you know I'm nasty, I'm about to be a savage. When I want it, better have it, nothing's getting past me. About to take this to the mat, and you'll be wishing you could take it back, yeah. Like an assassin, I'm praying, I gotta act on a craving. I'm coming after, I'm chasing, I'm gonna capture, erasing. Yeah, those who cross me, you'll be crossed off, cause I'm plotting. About to pop off, you can't stop me, winning is exhausting. But I don't plan on stopping, as long as they keep talking. I got these bodies dropping, as long as they keep walking. I'll keep making deposits, they'll find out they can't stop it, cause they'll learn that I'm a prophet. Yo, I'm seeing all red, got my vision blurry from the anger in my head. I'll never be second best, they gon' learn today what it feels to regret. You can't stop me now, the demons tearing out. Hold it to the neck, cause I'm seeing all red. Cause I'm seeing all red. Can you feel that? That's pain coming out mad. That's unchained payback. They call me a maniac. When they do something that makes me mad, you won't ever see me hold back. I'm coming for you right now. Knock you out, call it lights out. Try fighting, but you'll find out I'm no longer nice now. That guy left him behind now. All you got's a beast with his claws out. Yo, I'm seeing all red. Got my vision blurry from the anger in my head. I'll never be second best, they gon' learn today what it feels to regret. You can't stop me now, the demons tearing out. Hold it to the neck, cause I'm seeing all red.